Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I'm just sitting here in my robe drinking my morning coffee looking sexy as hell as usual. And for those of you who say I don't look sexy as hell when I do these videos in my robe, nobody cares what you think. I didn't ask you shit. And someone linked me a video late last night, right before I went to bed. And I watched it, and it was Marc Lobliner talking about a discussion he and I had had. We'd both talked about this publicly back last year, and something he and I discussed in some private groups we're both members of. And he took a couple digs at me, and I'll address that in a minute. But that was this idea of paying your dues before people go on gear. And it's what Mark and I had both explained in videos to everyone before. We come from an older generation. Both of us started training like in the late 90s. You didn't have all of this internet steroid suppliers. Everything was face-to-face dealers, or you went down with a group of guys down to Mexico and people bought gear. And if you hadn't paid your dues and you hadn't earned the respect of other guys, no one would help you get gear. You couldn't just go get it. You actually had to earn the respect of other people in order to get it. And one of the things that we threw out, and he said, well, this is arbitrary, because he said he couldn't, and he claimed I couldn't even do it, according to my meet, which was kind of a dig at me, which didn't make any sense, was that what guys used to say, and this is what they said back in Texas, all the older guys I knew who were like 30, 40 years old, who were into gear, used to tell you stuff like, if you couldn't bench 300 pounds, squat 400 pounds, and deadlift 500 pounds, and this was even for bodybuilders, you had no business touching this stuff. And if you couldn't do those things, they generally wouldn't work with you. And for me, originally, as a natty, I think I benched around 315. I could squat 475 and deadlift around 525 before I ever touched anything, which are by no means world-class numbers for a drug-free lifter, but they're decent. And I don't think those are bad standards. And some people will say they're arbitrary, they're unrealistic. But again, it comes back to basically paying your dues. But I'm old school. Mark is old school. And a lot of the guys from this current generation don't understand that, and they don't have to pay their dues. So a lot of them say, well, why should I? And well, that's their prerogative. I don't really judge anybody for that. That's just a standard that I hold to because I'm old. And I come from a different generation. And we really did believe in that sort of thing, and I still believe in it. But that's just my personal opinion. It's my opinion. It's just that. It's an opinion. But I did find interesting, and it was that Mark said, well, Jason couldn't do that. He only totaled 1,300. Actually, it was a little over 1,300 at my meet, but those lifts are a 1,200 total. And the truth of the matter is, everyone saw me total over 1,400 just a week before the meet, before I finished all cutting on my water. I had a lot of problems after the water cut. This was explained in videos because I did have a dramatic strength drop in the last week before I went to the meet. And I can live with that. I can accept that. We've discussed this in detail. But I just wanted to get the facts straight there. And back before I did anything more than my TRT, the lifts that I did hit in the gym while in a normal hormone range after coming back to training from being sick, I know that I pause benched 120 kilos, which is below that. I think I did it for a double. I had done a 190 kilo squat, and I did a 240 kilo deadlift, all while in the normal hormone range inside of a year of training again. And one of the things that we talk about a lot, and this is kind of sidetracking, is that hormones affect people differently. They absolutely do. And what I find interesting is that now that I'm in my late 30s versus my 20s, and after I've recovered from an illness, they don't affect me the same way. And you guys saw from my lifts at my meet, my strength levels right now, while at a heavier body weight, are barely, just a hair better than they were when I was in my 20s and still completely natty. They're barely better. And what I've found is that for me, I don't get the same response from hormones that I got when I was younger and healthy, because I'm not actually healthy. A lot of people don't realize that. I'm actually medically sick. I have major sinus inner ear problems. They cause me a lot of hormonal balance problems because of the elevated cortisol, the massive amount of cortisol my body produces with my inner ears. I'm not healthy. And accordingly, I do not respond the way that I used to. And I would say, in all honesty, I probably get half the response that I used to get from any sort of hormone that I got when I was younger and healthier. That I literally need twice the amount that I used to need to get the exact same results. And I have to fight harder for all of my gains. I mean, for me at this point in my life, for every 10 pounds or 5 kilos that I had on my squat or deadlift, I got to bust my ass for that. And when I was in my 20s, when I used hormones, I didn't have to bust my ass that hard for a small bump. I just didn't. And that's the reality of it, is that hormones are going to affect different people differently. Some people are going to get better gains out of them than others. They're going to hit some people harder than they do others. Side effects are going to be different. Fortunately for me, I don't really get side effects from most things. But the truth is, I do not get out of them what I used to get out of them. And that's something a lot of you younger guys are going to have to deal with later in life. If you choose to go down this route, you may find as you get older and your body starts to age that they don't work as well as they used to. All right, guys, but I just wanted to clarify those points and remind Mark to go back and do his math again, because even though I performed terribly, was dehydrated, my numbers were still measurably higher than the minimums we had discussed. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.